get to that when I was getting ready. I'm sorry. I'm good at that.
That's good. It is 7:48. This meeting is publicly noticed. The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law. Thank you. All trustees are present. Our first item for business today is special order business for a riparian land management plan presentation. Hi.
Hello. I'm Kristen Schulteis. I'm a soil scientist with OTI and one of the authors for the River District Land Management Plan. And I'm here today to give you an overview of what we did and some of the results that came out of it. So thank you very much for this opportunity. My other co-author on this is Scott Horson, who is a senior ecologist with OTI. So so we'll go forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
There we go. Great. This is pretty exciting what all the village has done for the River District area. We were looking at a 5-year planning and implementation plan for the next 5-year budget, but it's based on all the work that you guys have done for the River District the past 10, 15 years. It started in 2009 with a master plan for the entire River District area. And then eventually there was the acquisition of 2 properties to the northern part of the project area. Sewer pact did some wetland delineations. And then last year there was the restoration or the trail construction project, which was came out of the concept plan done in 2009. So now we've had 10 years of planning work, or it's been 10 years since planning work has been done. You've had some construction work done, and so now let's reassess where we are and plan for the next 5 years. And that's the purpose of what we were doing. And it happened in 2 steps. We first went out there to reassess all the existing conditions, and then from the results of those existing conditions, develop a management plan. So here's the project area, which is the River District. It includes the eastern shoreline of the Milwaukee River up to the Oak Leaf Trail. And it's bounded to the north by Capitol Drive and to the south by the southern border of Hubbard Park, kind of if you extend Edgewood Avenue to the river. And so that is the area study that we covered. So first step is assessment of our existing conditions, and we did that by completing a spring inventory. Scott went out there in April, May, and June, so he did 3 site visits to find species throughout the springtime. He identified 38 new species, 18 which are native to Wisconsin. He then added those species to the comprehensive inventories that have been done back in 2007, 2008, and then additionally to sewer packs in 2016. And so in all total, there's 184 species, and 123 of them are native, about 67%. And for the Milwaukee River, and to be this close to an urban area, or downtown, that's remarkable. And that is without a lot of human intervention. So this is a place of significance. From there, we then group the species into 5 plant community types. And those are based on kind of what the species like. Some like based on moisture, temperature, aspect, and soils. So go ahead to the next one and I'll show you where the plant communities are. So this is to the side, left and to the sides to fit, so north is to the right, or to the left, excuse me. And so we have 5 different plant community types. If you don't mind, I'm gonna go up there and stand. So up here, this is Capitol Drive, and up here in this green is what we call a prairie planting area. This was done following the 2010 ravine erosion that occurred from the major rainfall event. And then in 2011, as part of the Capitol Drive construction, they also did the restoration, and so that prairie planting dates to then. Then in this purple hatched area that comes from here all the way to the southern border of the river district, that is called a second growth hardwood woodland. And within that plant community type is of all different gradations of quality. This orangish line is the river trail. And we considered it to be its own plant community type just because it underwent just recent construction and plantings that are along it. So that's the reasoning behind that. Here we have this blue line. From that blue line to the shoreline of the river, that is all wetlands. We consider that the wetland plant community type. And then finally, it's harder to see, but there are little black dots over Harbor Park. We consider that a developed park area. And so those are your 5 basic plant community types within the river district. And then from here, we start narrowing it down even further into what your management is. So this is based on your existing conditions. This is telling you what you got out there right now. So from there, we revisited the vision and then the restoration goals for the river district. Back in 2009, we did do a lot of discussions and public involvement to develop the overall vision. And from the recent conversations, it's pretty much intact, which is to maintain the wildness and then to protect the high quality, high diversity plant communities. And then from that vision, we developed 3 goals. One is to maintain the NA3 critical species habitat area that was recognized by SEWRPAC in 2009 of an area of local significance because of its high diversity. And then, so that's our main priority, is to maintain that. 2 is to manage your invasive plant species. And then 3 is to focus on enhancing restorable areas for biodiversity and habitat value. And so again, this is flipped on the side, but here we have, from that, and given your plant community types, and then your restoration goals, we developed 7 management zones. And they all have different reasons why we separated them out, but it's all based on existing conditions. So I'm going to just point out a few important ones. Here's Zone A. That is, we just separated out that prairie planting area. The other thing too to note is that is owned by Milwaukee County, but we still just are considering it. Here's Zone B. Zone B is the second growth hardwood woodland. It is that area of lower quality and has higher dominance of invasive species. Further up is Zone D. We pointed that out. That is kind of a transition zone between the higher area of invasive species to then the area due north of Hubbard Park, what we call Zone E, which is that area of critical species habitat and has a really high diversity, high quality plant community. Hubbard Park we consider Zone F. To the southern area of the project area is Zone G, which is a hardwood woodland. And then finally, all the wetlands within the floodplain, we consider Zone C. So, first thing, what can we do to maintain what we've got out there? And so what we developed was an annual maintenance schedule for the next 5 years. With discussions with village staff, we determined that $10,000 budget, annual budget, you can do a lot with that, and you can get results with that. So what we did is that we broke it down over 5 years based on priority. And as you can see, our highest priority is Zone E, which is the area of critical species habitat. We really want to just manage the invasives in there and specific target species. Zone D, what you'll see is that what we kind of call that buffer area between the area of high quality diversity and lower quality diversity woodland area. And so the idea is that we want to clean up that buffer area so that any seeds or invasive species that are coming from the low diversity area doesn't impact our critical species habitat, and then so on and so forth. Zone G, that is that woodland area to the south of Hubbard Park and right on the southern project area. There's actually a really good intact plant community there, and we really feel that just invasives management could really turn that around. We find that area to be restorable. And so let's just see first what happens if we just do invasives management. Go ahead. And so then finally, we also identified 4 capital projects. These projects require more than just annual maintenance work, and to really target areas that we are concerned. And it's more than just invasives, but it's also enhancement. You need to do plantings, or you need to go in there with a mini axe and remove some of the seed stock and the roots to really do a good restoration work. So the first one that we have is the tall manna grass removal. Tall manna grass is a restricted invasive species in the state of Wisconsin. It is listed on DNR's NR40 list. The beauty of what your population is, it's located right on the board, right by the boardwalk along the river trail on the shoreline. And it's highly invasive. It is a monoculture. It is really hard, and it doesn't have any habitat value. And so the beauty here is that it's localized. And so we didn't see it anywhere else. So we have a point where we can really control it right now and remove it and replace it. And so we have suggested like a wetland scrape where you are going in, removing the seed stock and the rhizomes, replacing it with clean soil, and then replacing the plant community. So that's that project. The other 2 and 3 are enhancements of different types of wetlands. Again, there's some invasives management, but then let's also get some really good plant species back in there. The wetlands provide excellent habitat value for hertiles, for insects, and for birds. And then finally, we also mentioned enhancement of the trail within management zone B. And if you recall, zone B is toward the north where it's more degraded, the quality is more degraded. The thing about the trail is it's this one thing that connects Capitol Drive all the way to Hubbard Park, and everybody's feet tracks all the seeds or whatnot along the trail. And essentially it's a vector for bringing invasive seeds across the entire project area. So we'd really like to see along the trail first. Let's just first focus on the trail if we can enhance that. And so that's what that's about. These projects range in, sorry.
I have a question while you go along, Justina.
Okay.
On
Yeah.
the tall manna grass removal, I mean, would you be taking like a machinery or something in there to do that? I mean, isn't that going to be kind of difficult to, because it's only the trail? I mean, would you do a skid road? Or
You can get a mini X, which is made specific for narrow trails.
Okay.
And the other thing, you can do it in wintertime when the ground is frozen, and therefore any of the harder equipment like that won't be as destructive and disruptive because the ground is frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, but valid point.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there, and I'm not as familiar as other people with invasive species, but I know in Milwaukee they have the beer line and they did natural plantings and they do fires every, I don't know how long. Is there anything remotely similar to that?
We did not include prescribed burns.
Okay.
A valid question, but we did not for this. This could be done other ways, and just given the proximity to residential homes, I mean, you can, but there's other ways. I'm a big proponent of prescribed burning, but maybe not here.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Warren.
I'm assuming you've already thought of this, but I just wanted to ask the question. I noticed that in a lot of these capital projects, it includes herbicide treatment.
Yeah.
And is that an issue given the proximity to the river and the runoff that can occur, or is it an issue vis-a-vis the other native plants that are there?
Of using herbicides?
Yes.
Yes, valid. Now, you would use a selective herbicide specific to those species. So for instance, the tall manna grass, we do recommend specific herbicides that are like broadleaf selective. And that can actually also be applied in aquatic areas. So the DNR has different licenses for people to apply herbicides within ornamental landscape areas, within aquatic zones, and within prairie areas. And so you would get someone who's certified to apply herbicides within an aquatic zone, especially in a shoreline like that. Okay, and that's all I have.
To Trustee Maher, you were
Yeah, this
part
is
of the-
very exciting, it's a lot of work done, and you are gonna do a fall follow-up.
Yes, I should say that.
inventory.
Thank you. That's the last task remaining for this project is to do in fall inventory. So we'll have the spring and then we'll have the fall where you get all the flora at that time, and then we'll add that to the comprehensive list.
In addition, the Milwaukee River Greenway Group
Yeah,
is doing a habitat plan, it's in draft form.
yeah.
It looks at the animals, the riparian animals, and we'll have a plan for that, which rely on these areas.
Yeah, and so, exactly, and so for this capital project, I mean, there are potential funding sources to help with this. In the Milwaukee River Greenway, the DNR for the area of concern is interested in Hubbard Park and sees Hubbard, they call it Hubbard Park, but we call it River District. They see the River District as an important piece for reestablishing fish and wildlife habitat for this stretch of the Milwaukee River, in addition to some of the other county parks.
Is there a listing of, like, grants available that we can go for or have our administrative to look into for us because we're coming up to budget season? and-
Yeah, definitely. I included 3 in the report, which includes the River Greenway with Brennan Dow. I've spoken with Brennan Dow, and he's very interested in this. This is actually going to be very helpful for them. There is also the Fund for Lake Michigan. They are interested in these types of projects, and they also really like the fact that the Village of Shorewood is doing a maintenance plan. So it shows that the Shorewood is capable of maintaining these investments in the long term. So,
Thank you.
Yes.
Trustee Menton.
Yeah, I have a question about, so you're recommending about 10,000 a year in maintenance, and, because is that going to be enough to keep invasives from the north and the south from, coming
We
back?
think so. We think so. And especially, and our idea right now is let's really target our higher quality areas and then work outward. And let's get our good spots. It's kind of like you always invest in your best employees. It's the business thing that I always learn. It's kind of like that here. You always invest in your best. We're investing in your best areas first. Let's get those back on track. Let's hit that trail and stop letting it be a vector. And then we can work on some of the other areas, and that can be in the next 5 years.
One other thing is that there is on page 9 to 11, a look at protections in place. One thing that was noted was that our ordinance is actually adopt the Milwaukee County Parks Commission ordinance for the areas under the jurisdiction of Milwaukee County Parks,
Right.
which would be the Esterbrook Park area.
Right.
But if we do not have those protections in place for Hubbard Park, that would be solely under our jurisdiction. So there's no, like Milwaukee County Parks has a foraging restriction, other damage to other, the forest and other.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we will want to look at.
We don't have that like in our ordinances or anything, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's aspects to the Milwaukee County Parks
Right.
ordinances
Right.
that have resource protections in place. We'll want to review our ordinance to see, make sure they cover Hubbard Park and the River
Right.
District.
So, I don't know if you work with other communities, but I do know that we have the availability to appoint a lead commissioner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Fox Point has one, so
Oh, really?
I thought, what is that? But it's actually, allowed by statute, appointments board, so I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. But I
Okay.
found out through, experience with other village presidents talking to me that it's someone who would help assist with making sure that your maintenance of your natural life, your natural aspects is taken care of, so, or at least advocate for it.
Right,
So I've been thinking about that for a
Oh,
while.
that's good to know.
Trustee Buckles.
What did you say,
Weed commissioner, yes.
Huh. Okay, we could expand that. I was thinking weed commissioner is probably more for residential, but we could definitely expand that description.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll bring it up again in the future.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is also special order business for consider deed restrictions to preserve the facade of the Shorewood Fire Station and certify the survey map and associated easements for 3936 North Murray Avenue. Who's giving it first? Chief? Oh, Chief go first.
So in the, last time we were here, we looked at the general plan with John Longcamp, who's the architect. He's here tonight too. Tonight we're here to present a, first is a deed restriction drafted by our attorney, Mr. Hare. This looks at what had been referred to previously as a facade easement. It's a little different legal terminology. I think Nathan's memo in the packet describes some history on those type of documents and why it was elected to go with that type of document. So that document is in the packet for your review. There are also two other items that are up for consideration, including the easements on the property for the CSM and then the CSM itself. And I know, Nathan, there was some last minute, or I shouldn't say last minute, but there was an amendment to the CSM that I saw by the surveyor earlier today, and email that came across. So I don't know, I guess I would leave it to the board as to whether they take action on that CSM tonight or the easements on the CSM, not deed restriction. I don't know. I talked to Attorney Denis earlier, and we were playing phone tennis, so I don't know where that was.
I can briefly address that. Well, I think it's probably easiest to start with the easements, and I think what we would want to hear from the board and everyone in the discussion here tonight is conceptually if those are the protections that you're looking for, because those will have to be, some additional items will have to be added and modified later, because at this point, those easements apply to a parcel that hasn't even yet been created. But what we wanted to do is make sure that the board had all the information out there and could look at everything together at one time rather than doing this piecemeal. So we included them. They'll have to be cleaned up and tidied up once the property is actually divided, and then there's a plot number that will actually be assigned to that new area, and the easements will apply to that. So really the question on that tonight is whether or not conceptually that's what you want to do, and then conceptually with respect to the CSM, whether that is the new plot that you would want to create. If all goes well and the deal with the North Shore Fire Department goes through and there's a date set to close the property, then essentially what happens is we just file all these documents with the Register of Deeds, and we take care of all the final legal language that needs to be added pursuant to whatever plot number they assign to it and legal descriptions for that. So conceptually tonight, the big picture question is, are all the items in the deed restriction acceptable to both parties? And conceptually, do the easements cover all of the items that are of concern to the village in terms of access for the future property that's going to be created for that North Shore Fire Department to be located on? Is that fair?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, as far as formal action, what the board is being asked to do tonight or consider. So the deed restriction deals specifically with the exterior of the property. In the packet, there's 16 items in that document that have been drafted based on input from staff, residents of the village that submitted items, and then reviewed with John, our architect, and several other stakeholders in the process to make sure that they were achievable in a process such as what we're proposing or potentially proposing.
So, just for process-wise, because there might have been a change in the CSM, we're not adopting the CSM, we're not moving to approve or deny. I'm asking Attorney Bear tonight.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't, did you see a change in
So
CSM?
if I can just help you out a little bit. The architect had hired the surveyor that we used to do some grades for purposes of the stormwater management plan. The only change, from my understanding, that is made to the CSM, which has actually already been made by Shorewood, but it's not reflected on this, was one line that changed a foot based upon the grade elevations that they had between. So the change is immaterial, as it still conforms with everything that's needed from the CSM. So that 1 foot was adjusted in addition to all of the other legal descriptions and easements that would be provided and filed for those legal descriptions have also been adjusted. So nothing in concept changes except for the 1 foot.
And that was the change I was referring to.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying that we should be able to act upon it tonight with the modification of the suggested motion?
Correct.
You can just reference that.
Okay. Okay, and did someone have their hand up? Trustee Michael?
I mean, I just have a question, maybe a dumb question, but just asking. I mean, we drew the line kind of closer to this building, and then we have, and so we're selling the in-between area to the fire district, and then we have easements. Why did we decide to do that instead of move the line closer to the fire building, and then we wouldn't, was it just so we could include that area in the project?
We don't
So,
want to maintain it?
correct, I mean, so that, a couple of reasons. Number one, we wanted to make sure that there's a straight line. So there are a couple of things that are happening within the scope of that easement. Number one, there is a building restriction, because we needed to ensure that there would be no building for a specified number of feet between the north facade of the village hall moving forward and vice versa, from the fire department moving south, for building code requirements. The second is to accommodate for a utility easement for purposes of our electrical system, and that wire underground is not running straight. It's running almost at a little bit of an angle.
I know, but why did we not just move, we wouldn't have to do easements, we just moved the line closer to the fire
You would
station.
still need to do easements for purposes of building between both buildings.
Why do you need easement for that? I just have never heard of that.
Because of building code requirements and distance required, to not have building take place in these two buildings. So it's approximately 10 feet from each building would be precluded from any further building restriction. The building itself also jogs. So if you look on the survey, it's straight, then dips down with the garage and over to the side. And in convening with the surveyor up front, he would strongly recommend, because you can do a various line, it becomes very difficult for people in property ownership moving forward.
Can I just ask one question about, I'm sorry, but if the building code, the reason I'm asking is if the building code says you can't build in this area, why do you need an easement? Because it's already mandated by the building code.
To mandate the restriction, because in the future you won't own that property.
For access, for people, the vehicle, the maintenance of the.
Oh, I got the
work here.
maintenance part.
No, specifically a deed restriction on building within that 10 feet. So just because it is not on, it would not be on our property, nor would it be on the fire department's property.
So, I'm sorry to belabor this, if the property line, you know, whoever, if it was on one of our properties, we still could, the building code prohibits us from building on that space, correct?
This restriction is one that the building inspector had advised based upon the building code requirement.
Okay, I don't know if it's a necessary easement, that's all I was asking. Thank you.
The easement, I guess, is access to that area. So the CSM is the line of where that line is drawn. Easement
It's just because
potentially
the North Shore Fire Department will own it now. You're
Right.
saying
You
you're
need access,
preserving,
right.
we're preserving our right to go in that area.
Instead of drawing the line here, we drew the line over to that building. Then we would own it, and we wouldn't need easements. So I'm assuming there's a reason that the line is over there, was here and not there.
Well, the fire department is also proposing to switch the entrance to the facility to the south elevation of the building.
Because they would-
If you as a village would prefer to install and maintain what is between these buildings and the sure that they would be happy to allow you to do that.
So it's a maintenance, that's what I'm saying, so they're gonna approve it as part of the project. So that's why they need to have the land, and they're gonna
And then we give easement to allow access for maintenance purposes. That's what I
That was
understood.
just my question, where the line was drawn, where it was.
One, I just want to make this crystal clear, Bart, you can chime in. A portion of this is also for building. Because the building inspector has advised that we need permanent restrictions between your building and our building for purposes of meeting building code.
Is that correct, Bart?
That is correct. Since we won't control that land, we need to have a certain separation from our openings within with the windows, the openings. We need to have a certain separation. I believe it's at least 10 or 15 feet.
And so they can't, so they won't build it and then make us out of code?
Correct. So currently we control that area. Currently we control that area, so we would never permit it. But if we would sell it and they would be able to build in there, then we would have to add additional fire separation on our side of things. But the line
Oh,
proposed
so
where
we
it is.
allow by building code, we just experience costs.
Correct.
So to avoid the costs.
Yes.
We're telling you, you can't build there.
Correct.
Okay, makes sense, thank you.
Okay, so what action do we need to take tonight?
With respect to action, there's recommended motions located on page 5 of the memorandum. I don't know what number that is in the PDF, if someone has the PDF up.
So it's deed restrictions for one motion and easements for the three easements for the other motion.
Yeah. Attorney Beer, and can you just briefly, I know it's in the packet, but I've read all about easements and I've done facade easements, so I'm just wondering what you've discovered that was different of why deed restriction rather than easement.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, so,
You
yeah,
can answer that one
absolutely,
first.
absolutely. Well, the simple reason is because the village is not maintaining it, so there's no need for them to grant us access to maintain it.
Okay.
So we're not going to be physically, the village is not taking on the obligation to fix it if something breaks. The North Shore Fire Department or any subsequent owner has a responsibility under the deed restriction to maintain it exactly as the village dictates with the deed restriction.
But we can take that deed restriction away, it says.
You can.
At any time,
Like
any
other
future
deed
village board, you
restriction.
just
Yeah.
lift it.
Theoretically, but that's the same with the easement, with respect to the easement, it's really no different. With respect to the, oh, I'm sorry, is that
That did, if they're both exactly the same.
If, with respect to the motion, my recommendation would be to, one would be to either deny or approve the CSM subject to the 1 foot change in the line that was referenced here. And second would be to, and then I can help with the language when we get that far, would be to, if, once everybody has agreed on the language on the deed restrictions on those 16 subpoints, would be to move to approve and authorize the village president and clerk to execute, or to authorize the village clerk and president to execute the declaration of deed restriction and forward it to the North Shore Fire Department for approval, contingent upon agreement to sell and a closing date with the North Shore Fire Department. So really what you're doing is, you're not actually going to put the deed restriction on if somehow the sale falls through or something like that. It's contingent upon getting to the point with a closing date with the North Shore Fire Department. And then the last thing I would do is, you really don't have to take any action with respect to the easements, other than give feedback to staff that, yes, this alleviates our concerns with access or whatever it is, because we don't know what the plot number is. There hasn't actually been a plot number assigned because you haven't actually separated the property yet. But we wanted to make sure that the board had all the information together in one spot, in one place at one time, even though the easements are we're a little bit ahead of the game.
Oh, like zoning.
So we wanted to make sure we were ahead of the game, so that you saw conceptually what the easements were gonna do, even though we can't really execute them yet because we haven't even subdivided the property yet. So if there's any concerns on the easements, you can give feedback to staff. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and execute those, and we'll work with the North Shore Fire Department to execute those, and we can bring them back for final approval at the appropriate time. That's kind of where we're standing at. So that would be my, again, is take action on the CSM, and then take action on the deed restriction, and then just give any feedback if there's concern on it.
The design review board, can you just explain how that works with the deed restriction or the preservation of the facade?
I think the design review board has reviewed,
They reviewed the plans 2 weeks ago, so we can have to go.
but they really, the village board can set, because this is the village property, can set these deed restrictions. And that could not be overridden in any way, shape, or form by the design review board or any other board body. It's just, it's something that will run with the land and prevent amendments to the facade. And any approvals by design review board would have to, of course, follow the parameters that were set by the board.
Unless they find that it's prohibitively expensive,
Well, that would, right, I mean, there's,
and they can waive them.
well, no, that they only can make a recommendation back to the board.
Oh, back to the board.
We made sure that the board retains control over all of that. So if in the future, if down the road, you know, it's 10 years from now, we can't find this particular brick, it just doesn't make practical sense, we're gonna go to the design review board and say, hey, we got a problem, and then the design review board will, because they have specialized knowledge, skill, training, and experience in that area, will review it and say, make a recommendation to the village board and say, hey, we think that you should either recommend, you know, work with them on an alternative brick that's close, or, you know, if it's gonna be $85,000 to replace 4 bricks because they gotta come from some special quarry in southern France, we're gonna waive that, and that it doesn't alleviate the responsibilities on any of the other deed restrictions. The board retains ultimate control over that.
Any other questions? We do have a resident, but we'll take the trustees' questions first and then move on to residents. Trustee Warren.
So this might be a minor point, but I was reading when it occurred to me on the deed restriction. I was reading the section on review after casualty damage or destruction, and there's two routes there. Basically, the two parties agree that it can be rebuilt, and the two parties agree that it can't be rebuilt. What I was wondering is what happens if the two parties disagree? Is there some mechanism within this? And I was thinking that might go to kind of dispute resolution, but there's no mechanism outlined here. Is there some sort of standard resolution of that kind of issue?
Yeah, you're right, and I think the intent was that's how you would bring in, and, you know, if there's gonna be a request to deviate, then you would have to go through that design review board process, which would then make a recommendation to the board. But that we wanted the parties to try and work collaboratively as a first step. But certainly, if that's confirmed, we can always amend the language a little bit and just make it a little clearer if there's concern on that front.
Apologies, do you need that language? Because at any time, it says the owner can, or the seller, I guess it's us, the owner of the deed restrictions, what you're saying, can amend it or not amend it. And so if the language says you have to rebuild it to blah, 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 we can always work collaboratively and amend that to the board, is that correct?
Absolutely.
So do we need, or should we just state what we want, and then, because the question about amendments is really hard for me too. I just, what if we put a stricter, what if, 10 years from now, the board comes in, the village board, and amends the deed restriction to become more strict?
Once you don't own the property anymore, that's.
You can't amend it, correct?
No, that's.
You can only withdraw it?
You can make it less, you can remove elements of it, but you can't.
It says remove, but you cannot add. Then I would keep it as, strict, and then, because you can remove and you can't add, I would just strike that language, and then we can always amend it in the future if there was a fire. The intent is that it's preserved.
And again, these are all policy decisions, and you can go whatever direction you want, but the thought process behind it is that it's 120 years down the road and we're all dead and gone. And somebody says, oh, hey, there's an issue with this. Let's go dig up the document that the board made back in 2019 and see what they were intending. Oh, hey, it addresses it right here. And if there's a dispute, or if there's one party saying it's cost prohibitive to rebuild or impractical for X, Y, and Z, it tells us, oh yeah, we go to the design review board, and then we go to which makes a recommendation to the board, and we can also work collaboratively. So the idea was to for 150 years down the road, or whatever it might be when this might come up, that we wanted it to be clear as to the process. But again, these are all policy questions. If the parties agree, you can come up with whatever language you feel is appropriate, and we can amend it.
the design review may not be there forever, so maybe just says the village, but yes.
And I just, you know, my thought on it, and I appreciate, thank you for your answer, I appreciate it. I just think, maybe what we want to do is point it back and, I don't think this is something that would stop us from passing this tonight, but just maybe take section 5 and point it back, make clear that it ties back to section 2 if there's a disagreement. And then maybe, as President Rosen was saying, maybe Shorewood Design Review Board or subsequent body or something like that. Just to give a little flex in there in case it's something different than Design Review Board 100 years down the road.
Absolutely, I understand.
Any other questions from the board members? Trustee Bauer?
In section 5, that last line, where the owner may alter, demolish, remove, or raise the fire station facade, is it clear that it would also be still subject to whatever ordinances are in place on demolitions? Is that,
Yeah, there's no way that you can't usurp any of.
so this doesn't override?
No, it
this
can't,
state?
yeah, legally it can't.
Okay, so we're all right.
That's a great question.
Do we need that paragraph? Or are we just saying that in case of fire, it'll be rebuilt to the standards in the facade agreement or the facade deed? And then, you know, in case of a dispute, you just point back to a section. Do we need that you can to alter, demolish, remove, raise, maybe? Anyways, I just want to.
I believe that references to after the decision is made, whether there is the ability to even repair it, or whether there could be any sentence that would be reasonable. But how I read that is that after that process happened, as it's referring to insurance proceeds, declaring owner shall agree that restoration or reconstruction is impractical and impossible. And then it says, or agree that the purpose of each restriction not be served by such restoration or reconstruction, the owner then may alter, demolish, remove, or raise the facade. So I think that would only happen after the process happens. Both, it appears to me, both parties agree that there does not make sense to continue to try to preserve this.
Otherwise, there would be an appeal through the or subsequently related body.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, there's a resident, would you like to come forward and
Yeah, I have a question.
just make sure you say your name and address.
Rosie Brannick, 4248 North Ardmore Avenue. First, I want to thank Nathan for the explanation in the packet about why this is we have deed restrictions rather than easements. That was helpful. I looked through the restrictions and I showed the architect Mike Piney, who helped us catalog and photograph all of the architectural elements that were significant on the building. And he thought it was a great document. So thank you. There were a couple of things that I would like to add. I mean, it's okay as is, but if you would indulge me. In item 2, where we talk about all the decorative colored brickwork, I talked to Nathan about this before the meeting, about the possibility of adding brick coursing. There are several kinds of brick coursing on the building that aren't specifically identified. So many elements are identified specifically, and this was not. I thought it couldn't hurt to add that. And also under item 2, the step pattern gable accent. And then under the last item, under item 4, all existing architectural features and decorations, including wood, decorative molding. And on that item, I would like to add limestone. There's a lot of limestone on the building, limestone keystones, sills, and accents. So those are things I would like to add if you're agreeable to it.
And did you see in 12 and 13, we call out the different sills for limestone masonry?
So we could add keystones and accents there.
But do we need to add, she said, I think the point was that there is one. limestone, there wouldn't need to be additional language, is that what you're saying, we're not paying any attention to?
13.
Sure, yeah, and 13.
Oh, yeah.
This is masonry, that's the base. Yeah, so these are different, the keystones and the accents.
Are you opposed to putting it under the limestone?
I'm sorry?
Are you opposed to putting it in number 13?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. Oh, that's fine. In fact, that makes more sense. But the other two items are decorative brickwork, so I think 2 is a good spot for those.
And did you talk with any architect about those features? Is that how you came up with the 2 that were missing?
I'm sorry?
That you're recommending?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
Just,
you.
where did you come up with those? Was it talking with an architect or?
I'm a little anal, so, you know.
Got
I
it.
went, yeah, well, we made a book, it's a firehouse, it has photographs of all the architectural features. So I went through the book and compared it with the list and,
Thank you for doing that.
indeed, yeah, no problem.
And the architect is here. Do you see any problems with that, any objections from?
Not at all.
Okay. Trustee McTighe? Oh, thank you very much. Ms. Porter?
I had a question about windows. So there's number 6 and number 7. So when, I don't know what mullions and muntins are, trim and frames, I guess I know, but I know windows can, if you replace them with new ones, can look really different. But so is number 7 kind of ensuring that any new windows will fit and
Mullions or muttons are pretty much your vertical and horizontal lines you're seeing accented in the glass.
So are you just saying the same
It's
size?
like if you look behind it,
Yes,
and-
yes.
yeah. Yep.
So basically, number 7 in combination with number 6 ensures that the windows, any replacement windows will closely resemble the original windows.
Correct, because there's some on the first floor that were replaced that don't have them, we're gonna replace them back to
Put
the
them back in.
original.
Oh, nice.
So the only thing it leaves out is, if I'm hearing right, is the materials, so it would be aluminum rather than wood, is that?
But they're gonna give you that, exactly,
Right,
that,
that's what I'm
yep,
saying, 'cause
exactly,
For the
yep.
cost reasons, okay. Trustee Maher? Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to approve the declaration of deed restriction with the amendments suggested by Ms. Braddock and for our General North Shore Fire Department Board for approval pursuant to the memorandum of understanding for the renovation of Shorewood Station number 83 contingent upon a real estate closing on the subject property.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Why is it pending on the real estate transaction? Why don't we just adopt this deed restriction as is? I mean, I have no problem preserving the fire station in perpetuity.
That's a policy.
Yeah, right, and
You
this
can
is
do
what-
it, I mean, if you want, yeah.
I
I guess what's,
just,
what, sorry, thank you. What is, I guess, what is the difference? I mean, isn't that, in my mind, that's sort of the assumption that is in perpetuity, but it is,
contingent upon the land sale. So you say the land sale, so the land sale is also contingent upon bids coming back.
right,
And so if bids come back and they're too high, we have no deal, just say.
right.
So if you took out those words of contingent upon the land sale, it's just us adopting a deed restriction for the fire station. And then when we sell it, it transfers.
I mean, it constrains us
Right.
if everything goes down the tubes and we have to start all over
Correct.
again. It constrains us in terms